today's lesson is a continuation about clauses, okay, and I'm going to just quickly revise the definition of a clause, okay. It's a part of a complete sentence and it has a subject and it has a verb. That is the meaning of clause, okay. And we discovered yesterday that there are two kinds of clauses: the independent clause and the dependent clause. Now I'll remind you again, okay, the independent clause part of the sentence is actually a part of the sentence that if you wrote it on its own, it would make sense as a complete sentence, okay. And the dependent part of the dependent clause part of the sentence, if you wrote it on its own, it wouldn't make any sense as a complete sentence. It might need some words to be added. Anyway, it doesn't make sense, okay. That's the most important part, is that it doesn't make sense on its own as a sentence, okay. And I will show you some other clues, but later on. Okay, first I'm going to start with an example, okay. Let's read the sentence together. Even though Hassan is really good at math, he still gets stuck on some questions. This is a really long sentence, okay, and this sentence is a complex sentence. It's not a compound sentence, okay, and it has a dependent clause and it has an independent clause. Now I've written down some points here to consider when you are looking at the sentence, and how you can decide what can help you to know where one clause ends and where the other one begins, okay. So how to know where one clause ends and where the next one begins, okay. Number one, you look for a comma in your sentence, and there it is right here. There's my comma, and after I found my comma, okay, I read the part before the comma. So there's my comma, I have to read all this part here. Even though Hassan is really good at math, okay, I've read that part, and then I read the part after the comma. So after this, he still gets stuck on some questions, okay. So I've read the first part, even though Hassan is really good at math. Now, does that sound like a complete idea to you? Even though Hassan is really good at math? Yeah. And? Okay. Is that a complete idea? No. There's something missing. Okay. Even though he's not good at math, what can he do? So that's my dependent clause. It cannot stand alone. Okay. And then I'll read the second part. He still gets stuck on some questions. And I say that to myself again, he still gets stuck on some questions. Dot. Does that make sense? Yes, I can write that as a complete sentence if I want. He still gets stuck on some questions. Yes, that's telling a complete idea. That is my independent clause. And together, these two make a complex sentence, because a complex sentence is a sentence that has an independent clause and a dependent clause. That is your complex sentence. Okay, and then sometimes my sentences might not have a comma, but still there will be an independent clause and a dependent clause. And here's one example, okay. Sarah couldn't come to the party because she was sick. Well, usually we don't put a comma before the conjunction because. It's just a continuous one run-on sentence. There is no comma here, okay? We don't need to put a comma before the conjunction because. So what I do when I have a sentence like this, okay, and there's no comma, I look for the conjunction, and because is my conjunction. And then I read the part before. Sarah couldn't come to the party. Okay, that's one part. And then I read the part starting from the conjunction, because she was sick. And then I decide which one is my independent clause and which one is my dependent clause. Okay, let's read it again. Sarah couldn't come to the party. Can I write that as a sentence? Is it a complete idea? Yes, it is. And if I answer with a yes, that means it is the independent clause. And then I read the second part. Because she was sick. Okay, because she was sick. That doesn't make sense. It's not telling a complete idea. So that is then my dependent clause. Okay, some more examples. No, first a reminder. Okay, just some keys and clues to help you here. Okay, always remember to you look for a comma when you are trying to differentiate between the two different clauses. If you want to know which one is the independent and which one is the dependent, this is what you do. Okay, first you look for a comma in the sentence, and if you don't find one, then the next thing you do is you look for a conjunction. Okay, and I will provide you with a list of some conjunctions, and I've written some more here, because, but, and, or, after, before, so, yet, and there are so many. Okay, these are just only some of them, and you're familiar with most of these. Okay, and then the next thing you do is you read the part before the comma or before the conjunction, and you read the part after the comma or the part starting with the conjunction, and you decide which one can stand on its own as a complete sentence. That will be your independent clause, and which one cannot stand alone, that is your dependent clause. And one clue I used to give my other students is I am independent because I'm a grown-up, I can stand alone, and you are the dependent clause because you still have to live with your families, you cannot stand on your own. So I am the independent, I can stand alone, and you are the dependent. Okay, and that's one way to help you as well. Okay, and then just because I wanted to have one more example, okay, to remind you again that sometimes the sentence can start with the dependent clause. My sentence does not always have to start with the independent clause. Okay, it doesn't always have to start with me, it can start with you too. Before leaving the house to go to school, comma, Judy gave her mom a hug. Okay, so what are we gonna do? We're gonna look for a comma or a conjunction. Okay, my conjunction is here, before. So this time that's not my clue, that's not my key. The comma is my key here. Once I found it, I circle it, or I just remember its place, and then I start reading the part before leaving the house to go to school. Does that make sense to you? Is that a complete idea? No, that means that's you. You can't stand alone. That's your dependent clause. Okay, and then Judy gave her mom a hug. Can that stand alone? Oh yes, that's a complete idea. That's my independent clause. I hope that this lesson about clauses has gone down well with you. See you later. Bye bye.